2014. Wow, what an amazing year for games. And also a pretty disappointing year for some games as well, in my opinion. But that's for another time. But hey, with every disappointing games, there's also going to be some good ones as well. And these are my personal top 10 games of 2014. Before we get started, I do want to mention if this video gets 100 likes, I will do a video on my top 10 most disappointing games of 2014 because I'm sure some of you guys probably want to see that. So again, if this gets 100 likes, go ahead and hit that like button for me and get everybody else to hit that like button as well that you know and rack that up to 100 likes. And if it gets to at least 100, I'll do a video on my top 10 most disappointing games of 2014. But for now, let's do my top 10 most favorite games of this year. Quick disclaimers though, this is my personal top 10 game list of 2014, so our opinions are probably going to differ. I did show this list to some of my friends, some agree with it, some disagree, and the ones that disagreed said, hey, I don't really agree with your list, but hey, that's my opinion, totally fine, and that's how it should be. This is mainly just for entertainment purposes only, and this is hopefully able to influence you guys to buy the games on this list as well that I personally enjoyed. Also, next disclaimer, this is a list for games that I've personally played this year. Believe it or not, I have not played every single solitary game that came out in 2014. In fact, there are a lot of games on the Wii U that I heard really good that I unfortunately didn't have the chance to play, which I really want to. So just keep that in mind that these are only games that I personally played and actually really enjoyed myself. And final disclaimer, these are going to be my favorite games that are not remasters. So games like The Last of Us, GTA 5 for example, those are all going to be out because I want to give, you know, fresh games a good chance here. So let's try to be fair, because if I just gave, you know, those games are already amazing, but if I just said all these are the best games of 2014 but they're just remastered, that'd be a little bit redundant. So let's give the new games a try. Well, with all those disclaimers having been disclaimed, let's get right to it. Kicking off this list was actually quite a surprise for me. Some of my friends said it was going to be a pretty good game, but I didn't really believe it until I tried it myself. It's Wolfenstein: The New Order. Pretty surprised. It's a really solid first-person shooter game, especially on the PC. That's why I recommend you get it on, solely because it runs really quick on that solid 60 frames a second. The campaign's pretty interesting. It is pretty interesting to see what a futuristic Nazi-controlled world will be like, and there's a lot of, you know, scary kind of storytelling with it, some horror elements, but also some action elements, and they blend it together really well. The game is insanely violent and bloody and gory, which for those of you gore fans out there are going to absolutely adore it. So if you're looking for a first-person shooter that's not in the mainstream type of area, I definitely recommend giving this a try. Moving down to number 9, which is actually what I did a walkthrough earlier this year on, is Infamous Second Son. This is easily the best Infamous game in this entire series. Everything is improved, just the graphics, the gameplay. I think the story and characters are actually a lot better. We really get to see more an in-depth view on conduits, the people hunting after them. So you really do feel like you're fighting, you know, you're fighting for your fellow people with powers and you're fighting for their rights. It really does feel like you're fighting for a good cause as opposed to the last game where you're just killing a bunch of random people in gangs. But I also do prefer the actual cutscenes this time around, so they're not really, you know, comic booky. Some of that's here, but it was more apparent in the first game. In the second game, the cutscenes looked a little bit better. They had some in-game cutscenes, but here they definitely look excellent here, and the powers are really unique and fun to play around with. It definitely improved on the combat, and it's so addicting. If you're a fan of superhero games, this is definitely a must-buy. Next is a game which I'm sure some people are going to be like, what? Why would you put that on here? Because if you guys don't know, I normally am not good at this type of game, and that is Dark Souls 2. I have mentioned in the past that I kind of suck at these games, but that doesn't make them bad, not by any means. Challenge is not a bad thing at all, especially with these types of games. This is a type of game where it's really for those hardcore type of RPG, hardcore people that love, you know, that sort of trial and error thing where I didn't get past this one part, I need to figure this out, I need to strategize how I'm going to get past this, or how am I going to get past this boss, I have to figure out his weaknesses. It is totally satisfying after being killed by the same boss over and over and over again, and you finally figure out how to do it, and getting past that part, you do get greatly rewarded for it. And I know I do kind of suck at them, especially at first, because you don't have a whole lot of stuff unlocked at the beginning, and it's a lot easier for you to die at the beginning, of course, but it's really worth it when you go on, because I was even thinking about, man, this is too tough, I think I'm just gonna, you know, quit, but I pushed through. I'm so glad I did. I beat the game finally after a while, but it's definitely worth it. You get some awesome awards, so if you're a hardcore RPG fan, you love RPGs, but you're looking for something a little bit more challenging, definitely a must own. And next we have Far Cry 4. Now, some people are going to argue and say, oh, this is just a rehash of Far Cry 3, nothing's really new. I mean, Far Cry 3 was a damn good game. I didn't see a whole lot they could improve on it, which they mainly improved everything that was supposed to be improved on. They improve on the quality, the textures, the graphics look a lot better. Flying around in the area of Kuwait looks really cool. Being in those little mini helicopters, you can really see, you know, the distance. You really feel like you're in this isolated place in the Himalayas. It looks very, very interesting. The story is pretty similar to the last one, and I'm not really a huge fan of the story because it's pretty forgettable for the most part. However, the main thing is the gameplay. The hunting is improved, you get some really awesome weapons, and you get to ride elephants. How many games are there where you can actually ride elephants? I mean, come on, come on. And now we're moving down to Wii U. This definitely took me by surprise. Did not think it was going to be this good. Is Mario Kart 8. Damn, let me tell you, playing this with friends, especially up to 3 other friends in the same place, playing this together, racing each other, taking each other out with special abilities, is so addicting. We could play this for hours on end, and it's really cool to see all the different types of levels you can play with, all the different obstacles you have to avoid. So that I really did feel like a lot of these, the way the levels are designed, and if you completely fail on an obstacle, I was never like, oh man, that's bullshit, why did they put that there? No, usually I was like, oh, that was a pretty good obstacle, that was on me. I usually blame myself if I would fail on something, and there's no like cheap attack or anything anymore where there's like one attack that's insanely overpowered and you can take everybody out. It's pretty fair challenge, and the music, perfect. Mario Kart has definitely, for me, been known for its music. They nail it here, and that's why it definitely deserves a spot on this list. Next is a Xbox One exclusive. We are going to Sunset Overdrive. Yes, I am a huge zombie fan and blah 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 blah. We all know that story. However, the way this game takes it, it's like Saints Row on steroids. I mean, again, this story is pretty forgettable, as some of these other games were, but the gameplay itself is amazing. The guns are outrageous, but that's what makes them really freaking cool. There's a gun that shoots teddy bears that explode, for fuck's sakes. In the parkour, you really have to get used to it, but once you do, you'll be jumping around, grinding, taking out zombies like nothing. The boss battles are extremely fun and intense, have you on the edge of your seat, trying to nail these guys down. And I definitely do think this game has some really awesome replay value because they award you for finding new stuff and things like that, so it's definitely a must-buy if you're a zombie fan, or if you're a Saints Row fan, or who knows, if you just like these types of games, or if you haven't tried it out before, give it a try. It may surprise you just like it surprised me. It's awesome. Trust me. And next is a game which I am so happy I get to put on this list, because when I first heard about it, I was like, no! Are you fucking kidding me? They're gonna fuck it up. This this is just a cash grab and this is a big slap in the face to fans. This is gonna be such a fail. They shouldn't be doing this. But I played it start to finish, did a walkthrough of it on my channel. I liked it so much. This goes out to South Park, the stick of truth. This is exactly the South Park game that me and many other people I know that are huge South Park fans have been waiting for. It keeps the lore so well with the South Park series. It's just as crazy, but not taking it too far that South Park does, even though they generally do take things too far, but if that makes any sense. And the comedy matches South Park perfectly. All the original voice actors are there, which is awesome. And the game is just hilarious. There were several times where I just bursted out laughing. Whether it be your most powerful attack is in fact giant farts, or whether it will be you have to teleport from one place to another by having this satellite come out of your ass, and you have to point it at some corner of the screen so that you can get to that part of the screen. It's hilarious. And they rip off a lot of stuff in a good way. They rip off stuff like Metal Gear, Final Fantasy, ton of other games. There's so many references. Guys, you have to check this out. Even if you're not a South Park fan, I think you're gonna love it, just like I did. And for number 3, moving back to Wii U, we have Super Smash Brothers. I cannot tell you guys how big of a fan I am of Super Smash Bros. Been playing them since the 64. I still have it, actually. And then, of course, been playing the crap out of the GameCube version. Brawl was okay. I don't hate it as much as some people do, although I do think there were definitely improvements to be made. This game perfected it. There's no more of that silly stuff like in Brawl where you were running and then you randomly trip over. That's gone. The soundtrack is awesome. There's a ton of characters to play as. They all have amazing abilities. And especially when you're playing online, you can have all these people on the same screen just duking it out. It's fucking amazing. There's so many like explosions and punching and sound effects, and somebody gets an item and it explodes and the screen changes colors, or the map itself will completely, change in itself. It's so addicting to play. It gets so chaotic, but it's awesome. Anybody that's a fighting game fan, and if you own a Wii U, this is definitely a must-buy. And now for another game that I actually, fortunately, did do a walkthrough on is Shadow of Mordor. I was so hyped for this game. I was pretty skeptical because it was being made by Monolith, who doesn't have a whole lot of experience making these types of games, but I played it and I loved it to death. Although the story, it was okay. It was just okay. It wasn't, over the top awesome, and the ending was kind of lackluster, but it did have pretty interesting potential, and especially if they keep it going at this rate, because it was hinted that there's probably going to be a sequel. They can definitely expand on that story, and if they do and try to make it better, I definitely think it has the potential to be a very, very interesting Lord of the Rings story. But that really isn't the important thing. The important thing is the gameplay. Gameplay is superb. You have abilities you can unlock like an RPG style, and then you can go in and use them with all these different types of combos. And the countering. The countering is the most responsive countering I have ever seen apart from the Batman games. You press that button to counter and he'll drop whatever he's doing and counter enemies instantly. It's so responsive. I was surprised from it because we really aren't used to that, but I'm so happy that it was. And the game is very suddenly where you can just take out some enemies. It's really satisfying. And plus, the most important and unique thing about this game is the Nemesis system. I was like, this does sound like a pretty important aspect. This doesn't go either two ways. Either it looks good on paper, but actual gameplay will suck, or it's pretty much just going to be this incredible thing we've never really seen before in any game. It was number 2. I love the Nemesis system. It was like you're playing a campaign outside of the campaign, if that makes sense. All this stuff is going on in the world you're playing in outside of the story missions. So really you could create your own story by encountering a certain warlord. He kills you, you come back for revenge, and he remembers killing you. Or if you kill somebody under the warlord's command, and then you go back to the warlord himself and be like, hey, you killed one of my allies, you're gonna pay for that. There's so much potential there for the Nemesis system. I can't wait to see what they have in store for the sequel. They'll definitely improve on it. I'm so excited to see what they have in store for that. So if you're an action, adventure, RPG fan, this is definitely one of if not the best Lord of the Rings game I've ever played. So if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, pick this up. I promise you will not be disappointed. That's right, the game that I enjoyed the most this year was Dragon Age Inquisition. I have been a pretty big fan of the series. I wasn't really into Dragon Age 2. I felt like a lot of it felt more condensed, mostly being in a city the whole time, and the story wasn't really there. The story was really kind of bland compared to Dragon Age Origins. This is where I felt the series needed to take its direction. Just about everything is improved. I mean, the story in Dragon Age Inquisition isn't as interesting as it was in Dragon Age Origins. However, they definitely improved on the most important aspect, the gameplay. There's so many cool abilities you can unlock. You can import your previous save games if you've played the previous games before. You can even go online and create your own type of past. You can make yourself seem evil or make yourself seem like an angel and continue playing the game that way. And it's so cool being able to build up your Inquisition. You really do feel like that you have a big role in trying to restore order in this area that's being destroyed by demons. Characters are great, the game looks great, you really get attached to these people. Of course, there's not as many romance options, surprisingly, because I heard there was going to be a lot, but there's really not a whole lot because it's pretty restricted based on who you pick. But that's really not a big deal. The characters there are definitely awesome, excellent voice acting, and there are some choices you do have to make which are actually really tough to do, and I love how they brought that. BioWare has nailed it again. Dragon Age Inquisition is my take for my most enjoyed game of 2014. Well, that's it, guys. Those are my most favorite games of 2014. You can go ahead and let me know in the comments below what your most favorite games of this year were. Definitely love hearing from you guys, your opinions. And I'm really stoked to see what 2015 has to offer. There's already been so many titles announced that look so interesting so far. So again, you can go ahead and tell me what your most favorite games of 2014 were in the comments below. If this video gets at least 100 likes, I will do a video on my top 10 most disappointing games of 2014. So thanks again so much for watching, guys. As always, be sure to subscribe. That kind of hurt. Ow.